Another grand old Army team comes front and center at West Point for the centennial year of college football, 1969. Minus 13 starters by graduation, this year's team is led by Captain Lynn Moore. There's out, and Arden Jensen who'll break some field goal marks. Tom Cahill, starting his fourth year as head coach, faces question marks and much rebuilding as the season begins. Helping him to mold and direct the Academy's gridiron forces are the members of his coaching staff. Bill Parcells, defensive interior. John McCauley, defensive secondary. Bob Mishak, offensive interior. Dick Lyon, defensive coordinator. Bob Gratz, offensive backs. Jack Hecker, offensive coordinator. And Raleigh Stitchway. New Mexico invades Mikey Stadium for the season's opener, and there's a new Army quarterback, Bernie Wall, as things get going. Good blocks by Bill Jackson and Ted Shattuck. Spring Hank Andrzak loose for a 37-yard touchdown dash in the first half. It's a good game for Hank, who makes 152 yards rushing. New Mexico's ball. Quarterback Rocky Long gets wrapped up by Army's Byron Price, a senior from Lubbock, Texas. But along with such veterans as Price, new names and talents make their West Point debuts today. Frank Gorman is quarterback for the Lobos on this play, but he's intercepted by Bob Coonan, a sophomore from Rumford, Rhode Island. Bob Moan is now quarterbacking Army. A handoff to Andrzak, and two key blocks by Jackson and Shattuck give West Point a first down inside New Mexico's 10-yard line. The hands are those of Ted Shattuck at center, but the carry will be made by Captain Lynn Moore on a quick hitter over the top. The first-classman from Ponca City, Oklahoma, will have an unforgettable year in Army football. Cadet ball in the third period. Andrzak picks up 6 yards on a counter play before he's pushed out of bounds. Hank's another returning veteran, a first-classman from Fairfield, Connecticut. Bernie Wall is back running the Army team. With Andrzak and Moore blocking, this is a pass off the same play action. And just watch the greatest of catches by Joe Albano, a junior from West Caldwell, New Jersey. New Mexico has problems with cadet defenders. Quarterback Gorman gets pressurized by Ken Wyrick of Knoxville, Tennessee, and John Roth of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Both men will have a good year, and Wyrick will be named captain-elect of the 1970 team. It's West Point's ball, and here's Bill Roden on a draw play that breaks outside. Great running by the junior halfback from Jefferson City, Tennessee, gives Army another first down. Bill runs with that all-out effort. That's a West Point tradition. Minutes later, a 41-yard field goal by Jensen caps the scoring as Army beats New Mexico 31-14. Vanderbilt is the next foe, and Joe Albano and Don DeCourt clear the track for Andrzak. 25 yards on a counter play to the Army 48. This is a big game for Wall, who goes the distance as starting quarterback. A quick pass to split receiver Hugh McDonald is good for 13 more yards. Albano, Army's flanker back, playing in the slot position, takes the ball on a reverse play to the left, and he's good for another 11 yards against the same team that beat Army the previous year. Wall has a great night here in Nashville. This time he threads the needle to Mike Masiello, and Army's inside the 5. When Lynn Moore scores on a quick hitter, Army goes on to lead Vanderbilt at halftime, 10-0. Wyrick, who makes 14 unassisted tackles, also has a big night. He, Jackson, and Roden, all are Tennesseans playing before the home folks. Dave Smith hurries the passer, and Danton Steele intercepts. Last year, Vandy's passers had a field day against Army. Not tonight. John Brenner, who will go on to lead Army with 7 interceptions on the season, snags another one, and a fired-up Army team goes on to beat Vanderbilt, 16-6. Beat the drums for this one. It's a fine October day for homecoming, for pretty girls, and for enjoying tailgate parties that add to the zest of a football Saturday on the plain above the Hudson. Army's ball against Texas A&M, the first Texas team ever to visit West Point, and Lynn Moore, an Oklahoman no less, charges 63 yards against the Aggies before he steps out of bounds on the 11-yard line. Two plays later, Moore carries the ball on a quick hitter. Over the top, and Army leads 7-3. By the fourth quarter, however, the Texans have regained the lead, and Rocky Self passes to Ross Brubaker, who barrels his way into the end zone. 20-10 in their favor. When A&M kicks off, an explosion occurs in the person of Lynn Moore. Moore receives on the 10. And vital blocks by Andrew Zack and John Seymour trigger an 80-yard kickoff return. Dave Elmendorf overhauls Lynn Moore on the 10. From here, the attack stalls, and while Jensen sets an Army record with the most career field goals, Army loses 20-13. Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium. Joe Theismann, the Irish quarterback, is rushed by Wyrick, and his pass is intercepted by Brenner. One of the brighter moments for Army against the bull-bound powerhouse from South Bend, Indiana. While Notre Dame admits they've never been hit harder than by this Army team, such as Smith and Wyrick, they still have too much weight and speed for West Point. Theismann, their talented quarterback, guides them to a decisive triumph. With 2 touchdown passes to Tom Gatewood alone, they beat the Army 45-0. And of all days, Coach Tom Cahill's 50th birthday. Next, Utah State. And after the physical beating by Notre Dame, 5 Army starters are still out on injuries. But Chuck Blakely, Army's quarterback, jars a ball loose, and Donnie McLernan intercepts for West Point. With both Wall and Moan sidelined, Roger Ledoux is Army's quarterback. On a pitch-out option to Moore, great blocks by Andrew Zack and DeCourt set him up for a 56-yard touchdown run. This ties the score at 7-all. Here's a repeat on that play to see all the moves. Moore coming across. The initial block by Andrew Zack, and then the beautiful downfield takeout by DeCourt. A tremendous play, but it's only part of the story, and the injury-riddled Cadets end up losing to Utah State, 23-7. Boston College. On the first play from scrimmage, a dive play. Moore bursts through a big hole over left guard, picks up some fine interference from Bill Roden, and romps 82 yards for a touchdown. What a great way to start a football game. Lynn has been great all year, but this run puts the whole Black Knight offensive into an instant winning mood. At the half, Army leads 10-7. The Eagles ball in the third period. Strong pressure by Joe Newman forces a fumble, and Bob Bishop recovers for Army. A good cadet defense is now to be matched by a good offense. Wall hands off to Moore on a dive play, and Lynn crashes straight down the middle for 22 yards. Bernie Wall shows great leadership and a hot hand. On a play-action pass, he connects with Albano for a 45-yard advance. Joe gets 7 passes in this game for 100 yards total. From here, Army goes to a touchdown with an in sweep by Moore. Rotacco and Wall make the key blocks to help him across. Wall succeeds on 13 of 21 pass attempts for 209 yards. This one to McDonald is good for 27 of them, and a first down on the Eagles' 22. Rotacco, in his first game as a starting fullback, also had a good day, scoring 2 of Army's touchdowns as they rout the Eagles 38-7. Before television cameras and a record crowd of 41,700 people at Michie Stadium, Army plays Air Force. One of Gary Baxter's passes is intercepted by Randy Stein, a sophomore defensive back, who returns it for 19 yards in the opening period. Army's ball. On the play option, Wall is almost hauled down before he pitches it to Moore, who promptly takes off. Getting a nice downfield block from Albano, he racks up 24 yards to the Air Force 15. On 4th down, Jensen comes in to make a 25-yard field goal, and Army leads 3-0. Second quarter, on a sprint-out pass play, Wall is hit and fumbles. Leuthauser recovers for the Air Force on the Army 20. Though the Falcons are favored, this game is a close one. Baxter, trying to pass, is dropped by Dave Smith for a 9-yard loss, frustrating a touchdown drive. Bob Moan, substituting for the injured Bernie Wall, gives to Moore on a busted play, but Lynn makes the most of it. With another block by Albano, he shakes loose for 35 yards. But the Army attack is blunted, and Air Force leads at halftime, 6-3. Injured Roger Ledoux is in for Army, and he passes to Mike Masiello for a touchdown. But when it's nullified by a holding penalty, Masiello's joy turns to deepest dismay. His feelings reflect those of the entire Corps when Army has to settle for a field goal to tie the score at 6-all. Then one play does it all. The ensuing Army kickoff is taken on the 4-yard line by an Air Force flyer named Ernie Jennings. He doesn't stop running for 96 yards. His outside speed is too much for West Point, and the Air Force shoots down Army 13-6. Then it's out to Oregon, where Army plays on AstroTurf for the first time. Bernie Wall and Joe Albano find the footing to their liking. The pass is complete for 16 yards. With Oregon laying for Moore, who's become the nation's 6th leading rusher, Wall keeps the ball on a quarterback draw for a first down on the Oregon 34. Staying with the passing attack, Wall fakes to Moore and then fires to Bill Roden for a 19-yard gain to the Oregon 15. On second down, West Point caps the drive. Wall lobs it on the run to Ray Rotacco, who's on the path to the end zone. On their first trip to Oregon, the Army team leads 7-0. Third period, Wall fades back to fling one to Albano, but Oregon's Coleman intercepts. Bernie Wall knocks him out on the 1-yard line, but Oregon goes on to tie it up at 7-all. Moments later, the Ducks kick off, and Lynn Moore unties it. Setting 5 new Army records for most kickoff return yardage in one game, one season, and one career. Moore brings this one back for 95 yards. West Point retakes the lead, 14-7. Then Oregon moves ahead 17-14 with 2 minutes to go in the last period. Wall passes to Mike Masiello for a first down on the Ducks' 44. On a series of plays as the clock runs out, Wall keeps the Army drive going. This time it's to Albano for a first down on the 21. 23 seconds remain on the clock with Army on the 15-yard line. Wall back to pass, is tripped up, loses his shoe, and gets nailed for a 14-yard loss. Only 15 seconds now as Jensen, in a 43-yard clutch kick into the wind, splits the uprights and earns Army a 17-17 tie. Back at West Point, it's Pittsburgh invading. In this game, Randy Stein equals an Army record with 3 interceptions. But the Panthers rally to beat the Cadets 15-6. The stage is set for Philadelphia. Lynn Moore leads Army on the field for his final game. It's also a finale for Joe Newman, Steve Westbrook, and Jerry Cidio. For Don DeCourt, Bill Cater, Bill Jackson, Paul McDowell, Carl Funke, Larry Horacek, Tony Sobel, Byron Price, Hank Andruzak, Jimmy Crawford, Captain Moore, John Brenner, Roger Ledoux, and Ted Shadid. That's trainer Ed Pillings with Coach Cahill as Army moves in the first quarter. Lynn Moore, who carried the ball only 6 times in the previous Navy game, will carry in this one 40 times for 208 yards. He'll be so effective against Army's arch rivals that he'll be named the Sports Illustrated Back of the Week. It's Moore again on the same type of play, a sweep to the left. What Moore lacks in speed, he more than makes up for in power, deception, and the never-say-die extra effort. Second quarter now, and here's a good view of Bernie Wall on the play action. Running to his right, he passes to Bill Roden, who fights his way to a first down in the Navy 10. A gain of 12 as Army gets ready to go all the way. On 3rd down and 3, Wall on the option play pitches out to Moore, and Lynn powers his way toward the corner and pay dirt. Touchdown, Army. Here's a repeat of that play in slow motion, with Moore squirming out of the grasp of the Navy linebacker before cutting left and flinging his body over the goal line. 6-0 Army. Navy, meanwhile, is contained. Mike McNallen is smothered by Larry Horacek as Joe Newman and Jay Kimmett come up to make the tackle certain. The middies find Army's defense tougher and tougher. From the front line to the secondary, it seals them off. A long McNallen pass is intercepted by Brenner in the end zone to choke off a Navy threat. As the second half begins, Army really gets down to work. On a sucker play, Wall fakes to everyone going the other way, then keeps it inside the left end for a 12-yard gain to the Navy 18. 4 downs later with Army on the Navy 6. Wall swings out to his right and passes to Masiello in the end zone. 102,000 fans in Memorial Stadium and millions more on television see a jubilant team of West Pointers. Here's a repeat of the same play slowed down. Wall actually has a choice of receivers and he doesn't miss. Army goes ahead 13-0. Here's a side view of the Black Knights with Moore on a power play. He knifes through Navy for 22 yards, and his 40 carries in this game set a new Army record. On a big 3rd down with 13 yards to go, Bob Johnson and Paul Watkins set up a perfect draw play by Rotacco. It's good for 19 yards and a 1st down on the Navy 16. There's more good work by that Army offensive line. Watch Steve Westbrook now. Mow down the Navy cornerman as Moore cuts past him for a 7-yard gain to the Navy 9. Second down and goal to go on the power play. Moore piles over for Army's 3rd touchdown. 20-0 in favor of West Point. For Navy, it continues to be a day of frustration. Bob Coonan intercepts another McNallen pass and then gets a fine block from Byron Price as he returns it to the Navy 43. Fourth period now as Army powers its way on another drive. Hank Andrzak cuts inside the right end to the midshipman's 9-yard line. Army has all the momentum now, and the Navy is doomed. On 2nd down and 5, Wall fakes to Rotacco, then pitches out to Andrzak, who slashes inside left end for another touchdown. 27-0 in favor of Army. Here's a slow motion replay of that score. Note the great block by Moore and the burst of speed by Andrzak. Navy, trying to avoid a shutout, finally battles to a 1st down on the Army 4-yard line. 1st and goal. Marchetti smashes over right guard, but Coonan stops him on the 1. 2nd down and goal. Marchetti hits right guard again, but he's stopped at the line of scrimmage by Joe Newman. 3rd down and a yard to go. This time Marchetti's hung up by Newman, McDowell, Steele, and Roth. 4th down and a half-yard. This time McNallen tries a keeper, but the whole center of the Army line refuses to budge. It's a terrific defensive effort in the final quarter, and it means that Army has dealt the Navy its first shutout in this classic since 1949, the first in 20 years. It's a magnificent climax to a rough and rugged season for Army as it triumphs over the team from Annapolis 27-0. But while the 1969 season was a difficult one, the road ahead will match Army against some of the nation's very best teams in 1970, as 4 of the first 6 opponents appeared in bowl games this year. May their spirits, their talents, and their wills match those of one of their most famous predecessors in the long gray line, General of the Army, Douglas MacArthur.
The crash of guns, the rattle of musketry, the strange, mournful mutter of the battlefield. But in the evening of my memory, always I come back to West Point. Always there echoes and re-echoes duty, honor, country. Today marks my final roll call with you. But I want you to know that when I cross the river, my last conscious thoughts be of the core and the core and the core.